Right then, guys. So, I've not long done a video since about the release of the fixtures and me just talking random crap, basically, which I always do. Um, but for a while, I've had one of my mates, Pete, is with me here, and we've been thinking for a while of just sort of just doing something resembling a podcast, just talking between the two of us about Sunderland and having a nice little chat. And we're probably going to get one of our friends called Ben involved later on. If of course the two of them are still wanting to, we're potentially thinking of doing a video about previewing the Premier League, basically, and just talk about where we think each club's going to finish, irrespective of signings, etc. But for now, we just figured we'd talk about Sunderland's Sunderland's fixture releases rather, because it's just come out, obviously, and then just sort of go from there. So, you all right, Pete?
Yeah, how are you? You alright?
Yeah, good. Glad we're good. Finally, we can actually maybe start talking. So basically, I've just got the phone beside me. Pete's just called me on Skype, and we're just this is a much less professional way of doing a podcast. It doesn't even look any as good. But if you can hear our voices and hopefully not be bored by mine, then you're all right. So obviously, Peter, I assume you'll have seen the opening day. Well, not just the opening day, rather. You've seen all the fixtures. What did you make of it? We've got Derby County at home first.
Yeah, it's a tricky game. I think the first four games was in Leeds as well as Sheffield, Norwich. Yeah, it's four tricky games, four teams that'll probably be up there in and around the playoffs, I'd imagine. But
Chris, I'm a pound
you've got to play every team twice in this division anyway, eventually, haven't you? So,
Well, you have, haven't you?
yeah,
I think that it's going to be for teams in the championship. It is. There certainly you can't get much harder than the first few games, but I'd like to hope, mind you, that we would have like a new owner, a new manager, new players set in place by then. Really, well,
yeah,
you'd hope. I'd be pretty concerned if we didn't. I mean, Norwich away for me particularly. I think I said in the other video, Norwich away particularly for me does stand out as a tough game. And I think they'll be one of the teams up there. I think Derby, Leeds, they'll be aiming to be up there. Sheffield Wednesday will be aiming to be up there. So I mean,
yeah.
it is tricky. But I mean, how are you feeling in terms of the championship season at the moment? I mean, I think we've said before off air that it's quite tricky to say, isn't it? Because we don't know what our new manager's going to be, our new players, a new owner, what the new setup's going to be. The mood could be completely different by the time we play Derby, couldn't it? So
Yeah, it could. Yeah, I think it's impossible to make a prediction on where Sunderland are going to finish. And like you said yourself. I personally couldn't tell you where Sunderland will finish this season. Like you say, there's a lot of things need to be done. Right now, it's very worrying. But
mm,
time is on our side. But at the same time, they go back to training next week. We've still got a little while before the season starts. But I mean, the longer it gets, the more worried I'll be, and all the Sunderland fans will be as well. But I mean, I don't see why we can't do it. We can't get it done. But it's just worrying for how long it's going to take. That's all.
well, do you think though that maybe by the time, well, actually, never mind. I've been about to say by the time pre-season comes around, maybe my throat doesn't want to clear. By the time pre-season comes around, we'd have an idea of the club of who's going to stay and who's going to go, and single out the players who are going to stay, and think, well, we're going to try and build a team around you next season, and build to everyone's strengths. Whereas you look at the likes of Kone, you look at the likes of Lens, probably more in all likelihood Defoe, even though everybody knows how I feel about the idea of him going for free. But I don't know what you'd think about that. Do you think we would have some sort of idea to an extent about who would potentially stay, even though you could argue that could go out the window with the new manager coming in, I suppose.
I think all the names you've just mentioned are obviously going to leave. I think by the time Defoe, Cornet, say Kasri, whoever, Lens, I don't know, if Saberini leaves, I think it's obviously the squad's threadbare as it is. So when they leave, obviously it's not going to look very good. But it's hard to say. We don't know who we're going to replace them with. We just really need to get this owner over the line, and this buyer, I should say, and need to get this manager appointed as well. I'm not, to be honest, I'm at the point now where when McInnes didn't get the job, I was disappointed in the end because I thought, all right, he's on manager. I got used to the idea, but I think I'm at the point now where I'm not overly bothered. I just want someone to come in. I don't really like the thought of Tony Adams, but I mean, I honestly don't know.
Yeah, enlighten me about Tony Adams, because it doesn't fill me with excitement, but that's from someone who knows barely anything about him. So
I'm the same as you. Briefly, what I would say is obviously speaking of what friends have told mine because I don't really watch La Liga. I know he failed at Granada massively. He didn't win a single game. In fact, I think he lost every single game he managed them for. I don't know how many that was, between 10 and 15, I think, or
oh,
something like that.
did they appoint him late on last season to try and
Yeah,
keep them
he
up?
did.
Oh, so
Yeah,
that's who it was.
yeah.
Oh, well,
They got relegated as well. Apparently, he failed at Portsmouth. I think the only thing I would say for him, like on a positive note, similar to Roy Keane, when he played, Tony Adams was a leader, and when he played, he was certainly like a physical player. And he's like, I'm sure he was the Arsenal captain. He was quite a motivational player, if you like, probably big in and around the dressing room, an important figure. But that's still not enough. I don't know who my choice would be right now. To be honest with you,
I don't know. I mean, I'll try and see if I can get the manager names up, but there's barely any of them at the moment look really that encouraging. But I don't know. I mean, you got the likes of Simon Grayson being mentioned. I mean, you've said to me off air you're not particularly keen on the prospect of Simon Grayson, but there's I'm trying to see if your computer stops being so slow. There should You'd like to hope that by the time that all this is resolved, we should have a good few managers that would want to take the job that might be decent. But at the same time, if you're going to have the German we'll talk about the consortiums in a minute. The two, basically, guys, for those of you who've been potentially living under a rock the last couple of days, basically we've got two rival bids. I think it is one from a German consortium and one from. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Pete. Is it an American? Is it like sort of an American consortium, but it's led by Sunderland fans who are interested in buying the club?
yeah, I think the group's called Fullwell something.
Oh, it's Fullwell 73, I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah, I think all the money, say they did take over the club, the money that they would invest into the club would come from America.
Aren't they linked with? Don't they have like a big association with big film companies like Lionsgate?
Yeah, I think that's what they all involved in, like directors of different films and that. Yeah.
Well, that would be quite interesting then. Tries like a big American budgetary studios trying to to buy a championship football club. Right, I've got the well, my computer could stop messing about. I've got the next Sunderland manager as well. There's quite a long list, but I won't go through every single. Just out of interest, I'm going to see if David Moyes is on here, just for a big laugh. Imagine that the thought of Davy Moyes coming back. That would be fantastic, wouldn't it? Right. Simon Grayson's the favourite at the minute, 10-11 on. Nigel Pearson's 9-2. I mean, not going to go, guys. I'm not going to go through every bit of it, but it's basically Nigel Pearson 9-2, Chris Wilder from Sheffield United 7-1, Kevin Phillips 9-1, Tony Adams 12-1, Ali McCoist 14-1, McInnes and Paul Lambert 16-1, Ryan Giggs 18-1, John O'Shea 18-1. Christ. Alex Neil, Aitor Karanka, Alan Pardew 20-1. The list goes on. Stefan Schwartz 25-1, but there's loads of. They've got to consider every possibility there. But is there anyone there that stands out for you at all? That would be.
No, yeah, I wouldn't say no one jumps out, but out of the list you've mentioned, as you know yourself, I would say Kevin Phillips and Kevin Ball now, because obviously they understand the club. I think the fans, the players would get a good reaction. I think everyone would work well together, kind of thing. I don't know. I wouldn't be against Karanka. I honestly wouldn't be against Karanka getting the job, because he knows what it's like to get a team back into the top play. As do a few probably do on that list. I'm sure Alex Neil as well, but. No, I wouldn't mind Aitor Karanka. I don't think he's a bad manager at all. But I think Kevin Phillips and Kevin Ball would be my choice. I'll tell you what as well, I would be interested to see if once the new owner does take charge of the club, if Sunderland were to go back in for Derek McInnes. I'd be interested to see if that would happen.
That would be interesting, actually. But it depends if it's a German. I think the German one, they may have their own manager in mind. It may be McInnes, but I very much doubt it would be McInnes. They'd probably want to try and get someone in from abroad with them. I don't know. I don't know how it works. I don't know how the board members operate at different consortiums and everything. But I think out of the list that was mentioned there, Idor Karanka did well at Borough up until the point where they got into the Premier League, and then I don't know what it is, but they seem to attack quite. I mean, Borough fans, anyone watching, tell me below, what were you like in the Championship under Karanka? Because from what I read, Borough were probably very good in the Championship, solid defensively, but also quite good going forward. But Karanka seemed to sacrifice that the instant they got up, and ultimately it didn't work. So I'm not so sure. Mind you, Alex Neil, it depends, because I watch a YouTuber called Talk Norwich City. Jack Reeve is actually very good. I'll try and leave a link in the comments below, actually. But he basically saying that everybody lost contact with Alex Neil, as in they lost trust in him. He'd lost the dressing room, etc. So that does kind of concern me a bit. But I don't know. Like I said, there's no one that really jumps out. But I think it's interesting what you did say about trying to go for McInnes again. Like I wouldn't be against that idea at all if we were to go in from. If say it was the Fullwell 73 that was successful in taking over the club, then I wouldn't be against the idea of going for McInnes, but personally, I'd like to try and get Sam Allardyce back out of retirement, but it's not going to happen, is it? He's already pretty much stated it. I don't know. It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one. And we can't really talk about transfers either because we don't know who on earth our manager's going to be. We don't know who our owner's going to be. But
I'd like to think by the start of next week we'll have both of them in place. Well, I did read. Well, once say Ellis Shaw and whatever party agrees a deal, apparently the Football League have got to rubber stamp any potential takeover, and apparently that takes a couple of weeks as well. So.
Oh, seriously.
Yeah. So that's just.
More waiting. Sorry, go on.
I'm guessing we could have a manager though if, for example, say Ellis Shaw agreed a deal with this, for example, this German consortium. If this German consortium definitely wanted to buy the club, a deal was agreed, a manager could take place. So I'm guessing the manager could be appointed before it becomes official. The new owners, the new ownership. So
they might be working on that behind the scenes now, for all we know.
Yeah,
it could be any. I mean, that's kind of part of the issue for me. Is like half the time we're not told what's actually happening, and to an extent, I can see why we're not told what's happening. You can't really share every little nook and cranny and detail of what's been going on behind the scenes, but we haven't really heard very much recently, other than the statement that the club put out last week. I think it was about. Was it last week? It was something along those lines. Like last week about the new owner position. So I'm not so sure. I'll tell you, moving on to statements actually, because I want to talk about this. Martin Bain's come under quite a bit of criticism on social media for the whole Derek McInnes thing. And while I concede that was, from my point of view, is pretty embarrassing that Sunderland got turned down by manager in favour of Aberdeen, albeit we understand probably the reasons why he's done it, which is fair enough. What would you say is your thoughts on Martin Bain at the minute?
To be honest with you, I think he's done a very good job since he came in. I mean, you've only got to look at what Sunderland had made a profit on. Was it 3 players in 5 years?
Something like, was it 3 and 49 or something?
Yeah, something like that. And straight away he comes in, we make a big profit on Van and all. We make a massive profit. Well, obviously, Jordan Pickford was our one player. We sell him for 30 million. So no, I think he's done well in terms of the McInnes thing you talked about. I've seen a lot of people saying, "Oh, surely Martin Bain must have had an idea that he was going to, that McInnes was going to turn down the job." But I mean, at the end of the day, he went there, he spoke to him. It's hard. What can the fans expect?
Yeah, exactly. What can you sell to the guy? I mean, I can understand the argument. I was listening to the Roker Report podcast, which is a pretty good podcast, actually, by the way. I will recommend it. But on the latest one that they did, one of the, I can't remember who it was that said it, but someone said, why was McInnes approached then, surely, if we weren't able to attract him? And it is a fairly legitimate question, I think. However, I would counter that by saying, do you think Bain would be castrated? I was going to say castrated. That's not even a word, I don't think, and I don't even know what it means. It would have been chastised completely by the supporters if he wasn't seen to be doing anything. He must have at least been trying to get someone in. So
you just said it yourself, really. I seen it on Twitter last night. I think actually funny. Actually, I think it might have been Ben Dawson who might have said it in the WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
When he said what exactly could Martin Bain say to Derek McInnes? Oh yeah, we're a club in 110 million in debt. New owners may be coming in. You might not have a job in 6 months' time. So really, we can't guarantee your future here. I mean, come on.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, we can't guarantee you anything at the minute. You won't have any money. You might not be here in a few months, and we've got a new owner coming in. Do you still want the job? Come on, man. If you're gonna say, and don't get me wrong, there probably are things Martin Bain has done that we could have. I don't agree with the ladies' team being made part time, but that's the only major thing that he's done that I haven't really disagreed with. I think a lot of the things he's done, I have agreed with, and I was very sceptical of Martin Bain when we first got him into the club. I didn't know what he was going to be like. I didn't know what his function was going to be, and he's pretty much been brought in to completely restructure the club financially, which, given the debt we're in, is not going to take 1 year. It's going to take probably 4 or 5 years, maybe 3 or 4 at least, to do it. So, and the fact he's had to come, and straight away, as you say, he's come in. We've made a profit on Quartes, actually. That goes by unnoticed, actually. We paid like 2 million for him, and I think we got like 4.5 or whatever it was. In principle, obviously, once the money comes through. You got Pickford, obviously, we'll come on to Pickford later. We've got Who else do we mention? Van Aanholt, that's another one. So we've already made profit on 3 players, and surely we're going to be aiming to do that and do that blueprint, that model, later on as we progress throughout the next few years. But I mean, Martin Bain has had to really. I think Martin Bain's took a lot of the flack, and the stick that he's got from McInnes, I think, is a bit somewhat unwarranted, personally.
I mean, yeah, you're right. Let's be honest. He's doing a very he's got a very hard job there in his hands, hasn't he?
Exactly. So don't, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get us wrong. I would like him to. I would like him to have come out and spoke a bit more recently. But at the same time, I just think, well, this is what I mean. Like I said, I was skeptical of Martin Bain, and then I think he did an interview. I think last October, November, where he set out. To me, he sounded like someone he knew what he wanted to do. He knew there was a strategy going forward. He knew what he wanted to attempt to do with Sunderland, and I just think if he's going to do that, popular today. He knew what he wanted to do, and from then on, I've been won over by him. And I just think, well, yeah, he's had to cut down a lot of things. To me, for example, I don't know what you think. I mean, he cut down the concerts at the Stadium Live. Those of you remember, we hosted concerts in the summer, like in the off season, where big name musicians and artists kept coming to perform at the Stadium Live. And that's been cut. And to me, I think that's a good thing because it doesn't contribute anything to the football side of things. Now, maybe it might bring in money, fair enough. But you've got to remember the amount of money we're going to have to pay these artists and musicians to come and perform at the Stadium of Light. That's not going to cost. That's not going to cost pittance, is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
True.
don't get us wrong. Maybe, like I said, the Sunderland Ladies thing. I don't agree with that being made part time. But he's basically had to come in and cut losses and cut money. We're in debt and we're in the Championship now, which is going to lead to more job losses. So, I don't understand why people have suddenly gone to, oh, Martin Bain's an absolute idiot, hasn't got a clue what he's doing. Well, no, I can't agree with that. I don't know what you think, but I just can't agree with that statement at all.
What about the flack that he's been taking?
Yeah, and the fact that people are hinting that he doesn't have a clue what he's doing.
No, I think it's unwarranted. I think he's done I think, like I say, he's doing he's got a very hard task on his hands, and I think what he's done so far, I think everything he's done has been spot on. Like you say, with Sunderland Ladies, he's obviously done that out of desperate measures, hasn't he? Because of the financial state. So even that, he's had to do it probably for a reason. Obviously, all them people losing their job at the club again, very very unfortunate. Maybe instead of all them people losing their job, maybe obviously the Sunderland players, I don't know, they could have, like people have said, don't give their wages to the staff or like so many reasons or whatever. But the club's a mess, aren't they? Let's be honest. But it can be turned around. It can be turned around. Of course it can. If they, like I said, new owners come in and they put money in, of course it can be turned around. It's going to be very hard.
But it's going to be a process, though, isn't it? It's not just going to happen in one season, is it?
No,
and that's what I think people need to grasp. So, what we was actually, I'll read out the I think because one of our friends Ben, you won't mind us mentioning him on this, I'm sure. So shout out to Ben if you watch, you probably will be watching this. We basically just we've got the 3 of us have got a WhatsApp group chat, and I think it was something to do. Yeah, we were talking about Martin Bain, and Ben put this comment, and I actually fully agree with it. He said, Bain hasn't made the situation worse. He's inherited a bloody hard job, and he's had to make decisions no one else seems to make. And Ben's of the belief that I am that he'll come good. Now, granted, I said that heavily about David Moyes last year. That proved out to be right, didn't it? So, but I think, like I said, Bain's whole role is just to completely try and restructure the club and finance and getting on a stable footing. Although one thing that is interesting, do you think that there's a chance Bain won't be here if, say, for example, the German, whichever new consortium takes over, they might say, no, we don't want to work with Bain, off you go.
I haven't thought about that. That's interesting.
I know you just thought of it a minute ago, actually.
Yeah, I've seen something about it, but very possibly, because I know, like, obviously consortiums and all that, and owners, like, they always like to bring in their own people, but I like to think that I'd like to think they could see how good he's done for our club so far, and that he's an important figure in terms of this club's future, and that he needs to be here. Like I say, I hope he stays, but as you say, very well possibly might not be if the consortium or the Sunderland Fullwell group want their own people. But I'd like to say it'd be the wrong decision if they did get rid of it.
I'd agree. Oh, I know. Well, anyway, We'll go off Martin Bain because we've talked about him probably for quite a fair bit. But I think it's safe to say, guys, me and Pete don't seem to agree with others that say Bain's absolutely clueless, doesn't know what he's doing because he has inherited a hard job and he has ended up getting us a good fair bit of money for for like assets and players. And moving on to assets and players, the player obviously that we have sold, Jordan Pickford. Yeah,
Yeah,
documented that we've got in by the time the deal's completed or whenever it is, we basically will get up to £30 million for him. So assume it's 30 for the minute. So it's £30 million for Pickford. So what were your thoughts, Pete? Obviously, what would be last week when Pickford completed his move to Everton?
yeah. Good move for the lad. Very good goalkeeper. Got the world at his feet. Big future. Good business by Sunderland. A lot of money for a player. He's one of our own, as we sing, but
Hmm.
it's good. It's a good signing for Everton as well. That's what I would value him at, the 25-30 million mark. I think it's good business for both clubs. Everton have probably got one of the best keepers in the league, and Sunderland have got a lot of money. And obviously, everyone knows that, as we just touched upon, the financial state. So yeah, I think it's a good move for all concerned. Yeah.
Hmm. I think it's. I remember. I've seen quite. I've seen. I can't remember who it was. I've seen people be a bit disappointed about the fact that Pickford's gone. I mean, I've seen people be gutted that Pickford's gone. And while I can't say I'm happy that Pickford's gone, I think to expect the club to turn down £30 million for Pickford, while it is upsetting that he's gone, you can't tell me in the financial situation that it would have been an easy thing to just say, "Oh no, we'll turn down 30 million even though we need the money." I don't understand that. And you've got two other keepers there, Minoni and Mika, neither of which might be here. We don't know. Minoni, it wouldn't surprise me if he left the club, but you've still got other players you can get for the championship. But I just think, it's a good. I mean, let's face it. Did you ever really expect Pickford to stay if we got relegated?
No, I don't. Well, bearing in mind him and Defoe were probably our standout performers last year. And throughout the season, really, we've seen the clubs that were linked with him, and it wasn't
Mm,
just Everton. I mean, who was it? Arsenal, Man United, Manchester City as well. So
yeah.
no, I'm not surprised he's gone. He's, I mean, especially like after that England call up as well. I know he didn't play, but no, I suppose like a potential England number one, he's not going to play in the Championship, is he?
No, he's not.
Um,
And if he did,
no,
he wouldn't be selected for England, would he?
exactly. Same. That's probably hence why Defoe's left, obviously to protect his England reputation as well.
Oh yeah, I'll go on to the phone in a minute because I feel sorry for Pete. He's had to listen to me rant about this plenty of times, but I've got a massive bee in my bonnet about the whole Defoe thing. And I kind of want to, while I'm talking to Pete, and actually talk to someone who actually listens to the way I'm trying to say things, um, try and explain what I mean by the whole Defoe thing. But anyway, I mean, as far as Pickford goes, I think it is tough to turn down 30 million for that sort of money, and whether we get it up front or in installments or whatever, the fact is we need money. We need to financially try and save ourselves. And I think it is a good move for Everton. Good move for Everton, obviously, and I think it's a good move for Pickford. The only thing I was thinking, I was surprised that Pickford didn't go to a bigger club, and by that I mean one of the top six clubs. But I think Everton is a very good move for him because I think he's going to have a good team, a much better team in front of him. In the time, I mean, and in times he's going to have a better defense in front of him. He's not going to be as busy and he's going to be. I'm convinced he'll go on to be England's number one. I don't. I mean, do you think he'll be at Everton in a few years' time? Still,
Um, no, first of all, I think, like you say, it's a very, very good move for him, and he's definitely going to be their number one, without doubt. You don't spend 30 million and put him on the bench, do you?
no.
Yeah, do I think he'll be in Everton in a few years' time? If he carries on the way he's going now, I don't know. It's hard for goalkeepers. If it was an outfield player, you'd say no, but with goalkeepers, it's hard. You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if he still was at Everton actually. Even if he carries on going the way he is. Yeah, I could see him being at Everton for the next 10, 12 years. Yeah, actually could. Yeah.
It's down the other way
Um,
around. I think if he performs really well over the next couple of years, I think Everton will get like a massive like 50, £60 million fee from either a bigger Premier League club or one of the big clubs abroad. I honestly think he could cut it at that level. I think he'll cut it in the Champions League eventually. I think as well. What I'd like to have hoped Sunderland would have done, but by the sound of it, they haven't done it. Surprise! Is put a sell-on clause as part of the transfer deal to go for him to go to Everton. So in other words, say Everton have bought for 30 million, and say in 3 years' time they sell him for 60, we would get like I don't know 20% of that fee or something like that. So we would. So what's 20% of 60 actually? It's like 12 million or something. We would end up getting like a significant, like we would get a fair amount of that chunk of that deal, but it doesn't sound like they've done it. Um,
you know what? I mean, I think the reason they haven't done it is obviously because as it is, we're already getting a massive fee for him. Do you know what I mean? If we were already getting, say, 15 million, then we probably would have done a fee add-on fee. But
I don't know. I just figured it would have protected ourselves. But in saying that, you cannot really. I suppose for the fee we are getting for him, we can't complain too much, can we? But I'll mention the Defoe thing because I'm obviously everybody knows. Sorry, I'm just trying to put the charger in. Everybody knows by now that Defoe's in the now factual event that Sunderland got relegated, we would have a clause in Defoe's contract where he could go for free. And I'm surprised. I'll tell you the truth, unless it's happened in the last hour that I haven't been aware of, I'm surprised he hasn't already left. Actually, I'm surprised that hasn't been officially confirmed. Probably in the next week or so, it probably will be. But I don't know if it's just me that gets really, really annoyed and angry when I barely see anybody questioning this decision. Now, don't get me wrong, I know on some level Defoe obviously is too good for the Championship. I mentioned in my previous video, if Defoe cared about the club, he would stay and obviously not, activate the clause. What I meant by that was, and I don't know what you think on this, Pete, Defoe kept this public thing with Bradley Lowry, which is great, by the way. I'm happy that Defoe and Bradley, obviously, Defoe has developed a bond with Bradley Lowry, and that's heartbreaking. It's touching to see from everybody, especially what's happening for the poor kid. Doesn't deserve that, by the way. I'll quickly mention that. But I just think with Defoe, if you take Bradley Lowry out of it, if he properly cared about the club, would he be so quick and keen to go behind the club's back effectively and move away from the club? I know, obviously, we knew there was the clause there, so he's obviously in his legal rights to do it. But there was an article that said Defoe said, "I'm not going to announce my Bournemouth move out of respect for Sunderland." Well, when you're trying to organise a transfer away behind the club's back for free, to me that doesn't strike as very respectful. I don't know what you. It might be me overthinking it. I just want to see what you think.
I do. I think me and you'll probably disagree on this one. Actually, I do see what you're saying though. I think Defoe has a lot of respect for Sunderland in terms of like most players would come out and said, "Oh yeah, I'm signing for these. This is when it's happening." But Defoe has hinted, yes, I am going to leave, but I'm going to do it in the nicest way possible. I mean, how many goals did he score last season? Was it 16?
15, I think it was. Whatever it is, he.
Yeah, 16 Premier League goals for a team that finished bottom, and obviously he's back in the England setup. So no, I don't blame him at all for leaving. He deserves to be in the Premier League. He's good enough for the Premier League, and I probably wish him all the best as well. Shame he's leaving. Yeah, it's no. I would say even if he does leave, well, he is going to leave. That's nothing to do with how he feels towards the club. I think he loves it up here. He loves Sunderland Football Club. But at the end of the day, he knows if he wants to continue playing for his country, he has to move back to the top flight. I think that's what he's done.
I can understand that to a point. I just feel like if he did love the club, he would at least consider the possibility of trying to get us back into the Premier League. That's even I mean, people have said they're disappointed Pickford's not going to give us one season to try and get back to the Premier League. Well, to me, I feel that way about Defoe. I know they're at different ages, at different ends of their careers, obviously, but it just doesn't. I just don't get it. Sorry, I interrupted you there. I don't know what you're going to say.
Oh God, I forgot. Oh yeah, no, I think I seen something about Gareth Southgate. This weren't his exact words, but he was mentioning about Defoe. Like if Defoe wants to carry on kind of playing for England, he is going to have to more than likely play in the Premier League. Do you know what I mean? If Defoe did stay with Sunderland, I guarantee he wouldn't play for England again.
That's true.
Unless Sunderland got back in the Premier League or whatever. But no, I think he's warranted his move. His goal scoring record speaks for itself. Shame he's going to go. Obviously, all the moments he's provided. But yeah, I think he's done the right decision for him. Yeah.
Fair enough. I mean, I don't get wrong, for him, he does deserve to play in the Premier League. I just think, I think if we were getting money for him, it would be easier for me to take, and that's probably the big reason why I'm not as asked basically that Pickford's going. What do you think about the idea that Defoe that we're basically going to get no transfer fee whatsoever for Defoe?
Oh, it's shocking! Like you said,
Thank you. Thank God someone listens to that. Go on, sorry.
You don't sell your best player for free. I understand when Sunderland signed him, it's probably in his clause, if we get relegated, you leave. Obviously, Sunderland were probably thinking, well, just don't get relegated. But it's easier said than done, isn't it? As it's been proved, we have been relegated. It's ridiculous that they've so obviously
He's going to be allowed to go for now.
Yeah, I mean, once the contract's in place, there's nothing they can do about it. But whoever's idea it was to put that in the contract, well, to be fair, we don't know obviously what goes on behind the scenes. That could have been Defoe's. That could have been Defoe Defoe's agent negotiating that. In terms of
that's true.
If Sunderland are relegated, Jermaine gets to leave for free. So I would imagine. Well, actually, I probably know. Yeah, I would say his agent has negotiated that with Sunderland.
But what annoyed
Sunderland
me,
shouldn't have agreed to it.
yeah, I mean, obviously we're not going to can't do anything about it now. He's going to go for free, but I just don't see how. I mean, say for example, if Defoe's clause came in when he signed from Toronto, I can sort of understand it there because back then we didn't know if Defoe was going to be past it. We didn't know if he was going to actually still be able to contribute in the Premier League like he obviously has done. But then you think, so okay, so if it went in place there, why on earth when he got that contract extension? I've seen people say Defoe didn't have to sign a new deal. Of course he didn't. But the fact is he did sign a new deal. He's still committed to Sunderland to 2019. He at the end of the day is still an employee of Sunderland. He's contracted to Sunderland. He owes Sunderland the respect, which to a degree he has done. I just don't think he's done it enough. But then again, it's a problem with every player that leaves after they get relegated. There's no respect for relegated clubs anymore. There's no loyalty in football. And while I'm being idealistic, possibly, you know, that's just how it is. I think there should be more loyalty in football. But anyway, the point I was going to make was that last summer, when Defoe signed that contract, couldn't they have given him? I mean, I don't know what you think about this, and this may not be how contracts work. I don't know. This is just how I feel about it. Couldn't Defoe have signed a new contract, a brand new contract? A clause is still there, but instead of losing him for free, Sunderland protect themselves a bit and say, okay, but we'll get £5 million for you. And given at that point, he had scored, was it like 15, 16 when Allardyce saved were? He scored 15 goals. 11 of them came in the second half of that season for a team that finished fourth bottom. Can you honestly? I mean, Pete, ask you this: if Defoe signed signed a new contract which had a £5 million release clause, so we'd get £5 million for him instead of nothing if he left when we get relegated. Can you tell me that a club in the Premier League wouldn't pay £5 million for Jermaine Defoe, who's been banging goals in for a team that gives him no service?
I think any club would slap your hand off a £5 million for Defoe.
Exactly.
I don't know how it works with all when you sign a new contract and what terms stay as they are, what terms go back on themselves and don't apply anymore. I don't know how it works, but no, yeah, any club would be stupid not to pay £5 million for him. They've seen how deadly he is in front of goal.
Exactly. I mean, but with Bournemouth, for example, paying. Don't get me wrong. Maybe the club might have tried that, and Defoe and his agent were just stubborn and said, "No, we want that same clause in there." But surely Defoe himself would have known that clubs would pay £5 million for him when signing a new contract, wouldn't he? He would. He would have. We would have. If he was so. I've seen. I mean, I had an argument with a couple of people on Twitter a while back about the whole Defoe thing, and they were saying like, well, that would limit Defoe's options if there was a clause where people had to pay money for him. How? Do you think that would be the case if Defoe had a clause where people would have to pay money for him? Would that limit his options away if we went down? Like, say if it was £5 million, would that limit his options that much that he couldn't sign a new contract, a new clause?
In terms of, I don't. For example, I've got two answers to that. In terms of, say Defoe in his contract, if a club wanted Defoe, they would have to pay £5 million. I don't think any club would be put off by that because, like I say, he's worth it.
Exactly.
In terms of Defoe wanting to sign a new contract, if the £5 million deal was there, would Defoe sign it?
I don't. I think he would personally.
Yeah,
I don't.
I was going to say no, but yeah, I do still think he would sign it because Defoe knows himself how good he is, and he knows
Exactly.
that all these teams would still sign him.
So by that logic, then, like, was by the previous argument, the other argument is like, does that mean Defoe doesn't think he himself's worth £5 million?
Yeah.
When he knows how good he is? So so I guess basically that's the whole point. That's the whole argument I was trying to get at. And I think if Sunderland had put that new clause in, Defoe and his agent thought, well, come on, say if Defoe and his agent were talking, well, I'm worth £5 million. I know obviously for my age, well, you wouldn't get much of a fee. But for the age I am, I keep myself fit. I've got a religious diet I follow. Constantly score goals in the Premier League. I've done it for teams that give me shit service, frankly, and still doing it at that age. And knowing if say Bournemouth paid for or whoever paid £5 million for Defoe, that would almost be them safe, and the money he would save you by scoring goals to keep you into the Premier League would be worth that £5 million. So I know it's all hypothetical. And at the end of the day, it's probably somewhat irrelevant. But I just think Sunderland, maybe they did try to do it, but I don't know. I just feel like more could have been done there to avoid the fact that he's going for free. And I will never agree with the fact that he's going for. I will never sit with me. I just can't understand why we've allowed this to happen in the first place. Now, if that contract clause, free release clause, came into effect last summer, well then whoever put it there deserves to be sectioned. They shouldn't have put it in there in the first place. They should have thought more about this and thought, well, okay, just don't get relegated. But they knew we've been flirting relegation for the last few years. So I don't know what you think about that, but I just think that's very poor business sense from Sunderland. They did not protect themselves enough.
No, like I say, when Defoe first signed for Sunderland, even if his agent said, look, whilst my client's here, if he is relegated, then he gets to leave free. Sunderland could have tried. Sorry, Sunderland could have tried met his agent halfway and said, look, if we are relegated, then this is the fee you will leave for. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't much, it would have been better than nothing, wouldn't it? So
Exactly. The outcome would still be the same, wouldn't he? Defoe would still get the move. We would just get a bit of money for him. And in a state where we're financially buggered at the minute, what I don't understand how more people aren't questioning this. I really don't get it. I just don't. It seems like everybody's accepting. Just no. Oh, it's fine. It's okay. We're letting Defoe go for free. It doesn't bother me at all. It's just like, well, come on. I don't get it. Anyway, look, but
I think all the listeners, whoever listens to this will find this funny. I'm just reading a few tweets from Sunderland fans after the fixture releases. It's on the Chronicle. It just says, imagine, this is just 3 tweets from Sunderland fans. I'll quickly read. It says, imagine going into the first 4 games with no manager, no money, barely having a first 11, and the club up for sale. Oh wait. And another one is, first game of the season under the lights on a Friday night against Derby sounds class. Then you realise we need about 10 new players.
Oh god, some of these, they sound mint. Those.
Anyone else fancy us to be in the relegation zone going into September? I do. What a first few matches that is. So it's safe to say the mood on Wearside is very gloomy at the moment. But like you say, hey, that can change with one swift appointment and one good appointment. But suddenly need to get the fingers out the backside because time's running out.
That's true, actually. Yeah, I mean, we need to still. We'll move away from the Default thing. As far as I'm concerned, at the minute, with the general state of the club, we need to start getting a move on. I mean, I did say when Moyes left that I was okay with the club, like sort of waiting a little bit to try and get the right person. But I still would have felt by this point we would have had somebody in. But obviously now we know more about the takeover and we know why it hasn't happened. So as far as I think is the last thing I'll just quickly touch on before we wrap this up. What do you think about Ellis Short? Because obviously we haven't mentioned the guy who's going to be selling it. At the end of the day, could be selling the club in all this. Ellis Short obviously has been the club's owner. I think is it for around about 10 years or so, maybe just under that. I don't know when he bought it, but basically, I mean, what would you say about Ellis Short? I mean, I think was the reports that he was going to sell it for like 90 million to 100 million, and apparently that figure is going to rise significantly if Sunderland get promoted. So.
Yeah.
I mean, what would you say about Ellis Short? Because we've obviously talked about this quite a lot.
General opinion, Ellis Short, where to begin? In terms of since he's arrived, it's been one screw up after the other. To be honest with you, yes, I know he's put money into the club. Don't get me wrong, I do think he generally cares about the club. I think he does care about the club. He's put money into the club. I think he's put 200 million out of his own pocket into the club,
which he hasn't got back, has he?
No, it does. While I thought all that's good and well, it's at the same time he has all the reason Sunderland are in the state they are now does all stem down from the top, which is him. I mean, he's the one who brought in these managers. Yes, I know that the managers might have signed poor players, fair enough, but at the end of the day, he's the one who's brought the manager in the first place to sign them players. I mean, like the Canio. I mean, obviously then he brought in the Fanti, and obviously we don't even need to get talked about that.
Let's not get started on those 14 players. Most of them weren't any good.
Moyes didn't work. I mean, there's loads of things. It's just been one failure after the other, to be honest. And whilst football is a business, he just, I don't think he has. Well, I've said this for ages. I don't think, and you've said this as well. It doesn't seem that he has any knowledge of this sport. Hence his appointments. I don't think much thought has went into each appointment. If I'm honest, I think Allardyce was a good appointment. I don't think Poyet was a bad appointment. Obviously, it didn't end so well, but no, I think the sooner he sells, the better. I hate to say the new owners might be worse. We don't know.
But that's one worry I do have.
I wish him every success in the future, but this investment, if you like, just hasn't worked out for him. Obviously, due to his lack of knowledge and his poor appointments, have put us in the position we're in now. That's what I would say.
Yeah. I mean, I'm of the same opinion. I think Short could have done more to try and get himself properly. I mean, actually properly educated on football when he took over the club, or certainly a few years ago. He could have done the same. He could have done so, and he could have got somebody in who, does know about football and was, advising him properly on these decisions. I mean, like Roberto Di Fanti was an awful appointment. Di Canio was awful. I mean, even when Di Canio was appointed, I said at the time, good for a big kick up the arse towards the end of the season, but nothing if you're really wanting to try and go beyond that and try and progress to the next level. I think Ellis. I mean, I was really against Ellis Short a year ago because I felt he was just pulling money back and not investing. Obviously, since then we found out to an extent, we found out about the financial situation at the club. It's not ideal, to say the least. But I would agree. While I do appreciate what Short has done, and I do wish him success when we eventually do part ways, I do still want him to sell the club. But like you said, the owner, the issue there for me is, are we going to get somebody who's like a Carl Oyson at Blackpool or Venky's at Blackburn? I'd like to hope we wouldn't, but you can never be so sure in football these days. That does concern me.
Like you say, I don't think obviously, Ellis, like I say, a lot of the blame has to be put on his shoulders. But at the same time, like you've said 1,000 times, the players, the managers, everyone has to take a share of the blame for this. I mean, players over the years they haven't offered enough, have they? Let's be honest.
Not on a consistent basis, anyway.
Same for the managers. Shame Allardyce had to leave when he did, and
it's a shame that Roy Hodgson lost to Iceland.
You know what? I know we all joke about if England hadn't lost to Iceland and all that, but yeah, at the end of the day, if England hadn't lost to Iceland, Roy Hodgson probably wouldn't have lost his job, and England would have pointed to Sam Allardyce. So no, it's all the hindsight. England might have obviously got rid of Hodgson anyway had they got knocked out in the next round. But
Allardyce might still have left anyway. There were rumours going around. Apparently, he would have left because of the budgetary thing. So who knows? Yeah. Which then kind of makes me beg the question: was Allardyce's heart in it then? He was. I mean, I know people might think this guy sounds deluded. He's being annoyed at Allardyce when he was sold. He was basically sold up without a paddle and basically just not shit creek without a paddle, as I think the phrase is called. But he was basically sold a lie and just not and wasn't fulfilled by Ellis Short, etc. Like with the money side of things. But
I'm going off topic a bit here. Still Sunderland related, don't worry. But I was just looking at the fixtures. Actually, just going back to the fixtures, and I mean Bury is on a Thursday night, and then they expect Sunderland to play Norwich on the Saturday, like that, just like 38 hours later or something. And they've also Sunderland's game at Ipswich is also a midweek game. I mean, it's not much consideration for travelling supporters, is it? Travelling all the way to East Anglia on a Tuesday night.
What makes it even worse is the fact that we won't have that away ticket cap, won't we? Because Premier League clubs now, I think, have a price cap of £30 for away tickets as a maximum you spend, and I think the Championship doesn't have that, does it?
To be honest, I think it's very rare. Championship ground will probably charge over 30 quid anyway. But
I don't know. I heard someone said that. Who was it? Someone told me. I think it was a Newcastle fan told me on Twitter that Sheffield Wednesday charged their fans like 47 quid last season.
Well, that's just typical because that's probably my first away game.
Which is coincidentally a midweek game. I think it is anyway. It's one of our first games in August. I mean, we'll try and wrap it up here a bit. But anyway, this has been good to talk to, and obviously we'll try and do some more of these. But the final thing is, what would you obviously say? We might do one every week, every couple of weeks, just to try and get things going a little bit, and we'll try and get Ben on a bit more. So this is going to be interesting because Ben lives down London, and he's got a very a very big job with a load of clients to meet and everything. So it's going to be interesting to see when we can get him involved in all this. But how would you feel going in right now as you move around Sunderland? Bearing in mind, obviously, there's a lot to do. There's a lot, by the time we do the next one of these podcasts, we might end up hopefully being in a much better state, surely.
Yeah. Right now, I'm glad the season's at the start of August. Don't get me wrong, I miss the football season. I'm not saying I miss watching Sunderland play, but I miss the football being on.
Yeah.
And going to the game and all that. Right now, I'm very, very worried about the future of Sunderland Football Club, but all that can change with one swift appointment. So
that's true. I mean, I'm a bit cautious at the moment, but I think by the time we get to the Derby County game, which I think we'll all plan to be going to at the Stadium Light, evening kick-off would be quite nice. Opening season, actually, be the first game of the domestic All English season, wouldn't it? So we kick off England's 4 divisions effectively.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be looking forward to it. By the time we get to it, I'll be looking forward to it. But as of right now, obviously, it is a bit concerning about the lack of developments. But I'm hoping by the time we do a next one of these, that we'll have a bit more to talk about on that front. But just the final one, if I was to ask you between the two of them, would you rather have the German consortium or correct me if I'm wrong again here, that I'm probably saying the title wrong, American consortium with the fans with Fulwell 73. So you want the German consortium or Fulwell 73 taking over Sunderland, if it was your choice? Because I know Ben wasn't all for the he wasn't all for the fans for Fulwell 73, whereas I'm kind of the other way around.
Honestly, don't know. I couldn't comment because I don't know enough about them. All I will say is whichever one's got more money.
Fair enough. I don't think if we manage it properly, Fulwell 73, I think, could be the better option because you have fans at the top of the club. But then you would think, how would business work on that side of things?
Yeah, I suppose if the Fulwell group did take over, you could say they probably have the interest of the club at heart. Like obviously the financial, like I say, I think all the financial, like all their financial power apparently comes from America. In terms of the German consortium, is it the German consortium or the Sunderland fan group that's got linked with Adams? Which one's with Adams?
It might be the Fulwell one. I'm not sure. I need to have a look at that.
Yeah. Either way, no. As long as whoever comes in has a good understanding of the game and has Sunderland's interest at heart, I don't mind who takes over. But apparently, there's a couple other interested parties as well. It's not necessarily going to be one of them two. It looks like that, yes, but apparently there are other interested parties in buying the club as well, so it would be interesting.
Well, I think the quoted fee was like 100 million. Yeah, I'm just looking at. While you were talking, I was trying to look at the fans. Yeah, this is from the Times. Bearing in mind, so I don't know what context or truth there is to this, but it says fans consortium hoping to buy controlling stake in Sunderland approaches Tony Adams to be the club's new manager. Again, I don't know how seriously you take the Times. Mind you, if it's George Corkin, I do tend to take it quite serious because he's usually quite spot on with what he says. But well, in my experience, he has been anyway. What would you think about that? Tony Adams as a new manager if we were to get the fans consortium?
If Tony Adams gets a job, is David Moyes still available?
Yeah.
I don't know. It would, like I say, I wouldn't.
It wouldn't fill you with confidence, would it?
No, but we need a manager. We really do need a manager. I'm sort like I say, I wouldn't want Simon Grayson and maybe a few others, but I tell you what, I'm starting to get to the point now where even for certain managers I don't want, I'd rather have them than
other managers that you would feel would be worse.
Yeah, like I think some might be bad, but then I think, well, they could be even worse again. Yeah. I don't know. So I was going to say Sunderland know what they're doing, but no, I don't know if they do.
Yeah, from past experience, for the last 4, 5, 6 years,
no.
that's anything. That's nothing to go by. Right, guys. Usual phrase: love yous and all leave yous. I hope you've enjoyed this. It's just something we're trying out, attempting to do a podcast. We're not going to claim to be any good or anything, but hopefully you've somewhat enjoyed listening to us, even if it's me ranting half the time about stuff. But thanks to Pete for joining me, and hopefully we'll do more of these. So we'll catch you later and see you soon.